General and WDO inspections.
General and WDO inspections, take two. Buyers, once they have a property under contract, are entitled, per the agreement, to do a multitude of different inspections. Typically, though, what I see is two different types of inspections. One is a general home inspection that gives the buyer kind of a confidence in the condition of the roof, the electrical, the plumbing, the air conditioning, the windows, etc., etc. And then the second type of inspection is a WDO, or wood destroying organism inspection, looking for specifically wood rot. And wood rot that comes from either bugs, like termites, or water damage is the other type of issue that creates wood rot. Sometimes lender will require this WDO inspection, and sometimes lenders will require that the items found on that WDO inspection be attended to. So it's not a bad idea as an owner and seller to have a WDO inspection done prior to or at the time of listing, address any issues that may stem from that, and then we can hand off to buyers and potential buyers this clean WDO report so that they don't have to do another one, and we don't have to go back and forth on debating what's rotten wood and what isn't with a future inspector.
Make the last mortgage payment.
Make the last mortgage payment, take one. So this is a question that comes up from time to time, and the issue is, we're closing on October the 5th. Do I need to make my mortgage payment that was due on October the 1st, but not really late until maybe October the 15th? The answer is make the payment on the 1st, because mortgage interest is actually paid in arrears. So the payment I make in October goes towards the interest that was due in September. So you're not making any interest payment that you haven't already used or isn't already owed. So yes, make your payment. In a worst case scenario, if you overpaid your lender, the title company would catch that, your lender would catch that, and we'll make sure that you get refunded that money. Years ago in Miami, that's how drug dealers laundered their money, was into real estate.
Financing cash.
So good question. How do we know that the buyer can actually buy your home? And this is something that every day I do in the business, try and determine whether or not this is really a qualified buyer. Can they really get the loan? Do they really have the cash? And so we can't be 100% sure, because until you've cashed the check from your closing, it's not a done deal. But we can get about 99% of the way there by working with reputable real estate agents, making sure that the buyer has a pre-approval letter, or if they're paying with cash, we're going to want to see a bank statement. Maybe they're using a line of credit. We'll talk to their banker about what the terms are with getting access to that money. So there are tricks of the trade that I have to make sure that the person who's making the offer on your property can actually come through and purchase your property.
All right. You.
Selling and buying, take two. So the thing that keeps every realtor up at night is going through a transaction where one customer is selling a home and buying a home and trying to make those two dates align perfectly. It's tough to do. It's tough to do, and I've been a part of dozens of transactions like this, and I'll say that for the most part it works out. Have had a few that haven't for various reasons, but what I can say is we need to just be very detail oriented all throughout the process to make sure that we dot every I and cross every T. And then B, you need to have a backup plan just in case when you sell, the buy portion of your transaction doesn't perfectly align. You need a place to stay with you and your family if those two dates don't coincide exactly how we want. So that's my general advice, and if we get to that point where you're in the middle of this selling and buying transaction, we'll certainly take it a step further.
When do we do repairs?
When do we do repairs? Take one. So After the home inspection is done, and both you and the buyer have come to terms on what repairs are going to be done, the question is, what's the timing for having those repairs done? And it's a little bit of a gray area because the contract, if we're using the Northeast Florida Association of Realtors purchase and sale agreement, says you don't have to have repairs done or don't need to begin even doing those repairs until the buyer has loan approval, right? Well, loan approval doesn't typically come until just a few days before closing. So if the repairs are more major than just minor fixes, it's probably going to take more than a few days to get them done. So this is something that, depending on your situation, we'll need to have a conversation about to determine how confident are we that the buyer is going to close the deal and how long are the repairs that you are doing going to take.
How to handle inspection issues. Got it.
How to handle inspection issues, take one. One of the least fun parts of selling a home as the owner is to have an inspection done by the buyer and then get this laundry list of 73 items that the buyer wants fixed per the inspection report. And so it's a genuine concern on your part to want to know what's going to happen in that scenario. And all I can say is this, is that it's a negotiation, and it doesn't do any good, and sometimes does more harm than good, to upfront, if all things considered you have a nice home, to say that you're selling the property as is, because then you've put in the buyer's mind what's wrong with this property that they're not telling me about, right? So my opinion for you is, let's just go ahead and sell the home, assuming that everything is in good working condition. Once we have the home inspection report, then we will work through that, try and focus the buyer on the actual real issues and not all of the nonsense that some inspector that was overzealous pointed out. And we'll work through them and make sure that we keep the deal together. And trust me, I've had it happen countless times, and again, countless times, been able to keep deals together as long as everybody, buyer and seller alike, will stay at the table and just continue communicating and trying to work towards closing. I don't need that. You on?
Yep.
Response to offers, take two. So typically, when we receive an offer from a buyer's agent, they'll give us until the next day at 5 p.m. Sometimes more than that, but I'd say that's the average. Usually we'll see about a 24-hour timeline for getting a response back to them. But what that means is, after 5 p.m. tomorrow, in our example, this particular offer in its current form is no longer good. It does not mean that we can't continue the negotiation and still come to terms. All of that said, it's always my advice to a seller, because if you can remember being a buyer, you can probably remember sitting on pins and needles waiting for the answer from the seller to determine if this is going to be your next home or not. So my advice for you as a seller is respond as quickly as you are able. Don't wait until tomorrow if you don't have to. The buyer is antsy, they're anxious, they want to hear back from you. So as quickly as you can, let's get an offer back to them or a counter offer back to them. Okay.
Yeah.
Buyer follow-up, take one. One of the most important aspects of the real estate brokerage business is being persistent about follow-up. And there's a good chance that you and I met months before you decided to list your home, and I probably bugged you on the phone multiple times prior to actually listing. And I'm the same way with buyers that are interested in your property. Whether I'm working with them or another agent is, I just constantly ping them to gauge their interest in the home and to see what we can do to put a deal together, because I can't count the number of times that a buyer looked at a home and then weeks or sometimes months later decided to buy it because we constantly were reminding that buyer of the property. So I have a system for following up with people, and just know that I'm constantly reaching out to buyers that have previously seen the house or made an offer to try and re-engage them with your property.